Hello everyone, it's December 18th, 2018. It's Tuesday, it's Harp Tuesday, and in today's episode I'm going to talk about The Little Fountain. This is a classic piece by Samuel Pratt. If I'm honest, it was never my favorite piece, but it's got a beautiful sort of water sound and a great exercise for downward arpeggios. I've talked a little bit about downward arpeggios in an episode I did a number of years ago about Hasselmann's La Source. And probably in some other episodes touched on it as well, but I kind of want to do is just a kind of an in-depth, with a fairly short look at some ways to get this 1, 2, 3, 4 downward arpeggio feeling easier, because I think it's something that a lot of people have a hard time getting smooth and fast and even. And I'm not sure about this camera angle. This is what I'm going to try. I think I will try to do a slow motion Monday with a camera angle from a different setup. But for the moment, this is the best I came up with. And it's interesting because we can think, for example, if we could do a upward rolled chord and have that sound good and easy and loud and even, why couldn't we do the reverse? And maybe it's a matter of practice, but also I think if we think about just the physiology of the hand, when we're going down, it's difficult to play this third finger with the fourth finger still on the string, right? And that has to do with, so when we're going up, right, we play 4. I think that feels pretty easy, whether the third finger is on here or not. But going down to try to play 3 with 4 on the string is tough. And again, that idea that, say, for example, if we try to raise the individual fingers, 2 and the pinky might be easy, but you might find it difficult to raise 4 or 3. Now, for me, it's not, because I think all the practice and reading up on this is interesting that they talk about there is both a physiological aspect and also a mental one in terms of knowing, I guess, discovering the signals to send so that we can isolate, say, the fourth finger in particular. So I think it's difficult. It can be difficult to play that third finger. So one thing to practice, right, is to just practice this. Can we play that third finger easily and smoothly, loud and yet relaxed, with the fourth finger still on the string? So that's, if we can do that, that's a good start. Also, can we do that? Can that feel even? And thinking about some of the setup, some of the technique in terms of where we want to position the hand and the fingers and the arm. So for me, I would like to, I have the arm off the soundboard. I have the palm pointing down, fingers pointing down quite a bit. So for example, I think if you have the palm pointing at you and trying to play that third finger with a fourth finger still on the string, I think it becomes much more difficult. Whereas if we can use a little bit more side of the finger, maybe it just slides off a little bit more easily. I would say also watch that you're not raising the base of the thumb, the wrist, too high, so that if you're kind of like this, I think that also becomes more difficult. So relaxing down, the thumb stays up, we don't relax the entire top of the hand down, but we can just get a little bit close here. Also notice, for me, again, I have these very long fingers. So for example, if I was doing a bigger stretch, might not quite to the same extent, but again, because the third finger tends to be longer than the fourth finger, right? We have to do something, because if we straighten this third finger, if we're trying like this, how do we get that fourth finger on the string, right? And to be able to grab it and feel comfortable. So that's where, if we bend at this second joint, I guess, and go, so we're out and then down, instead of straightened, we're out and then down like this, that can create then a very comfortable fourth finger. So we don't feel as if we're straining to reach with that fourth finger. It feels very comfortable. That fourth finger can grab very comfortably. Now, You might hyperextend this joint. I do. Gradually, would talk about better tone by straightening that last joint. But you could also bend it, and maybe many people do that as well. For me, with this fourth finger, I tend to bend it here and kind of grab this way rather than trying to straighten that last joint. But again, just some things that you might be aware of and play around with. So that can kind of help get you set in a position that hopefully is somewhat comfortable. And again, I'll try and do this Slow Motion Monday episode from a different angle to give you some more looks at how I set up at least. So practicing that third finger, the 3-4, just practicing slowly and loudly and firmly. Again, effort. Maybe squeeze the strings a little bit. And then relaxation. So we're building both strength and relaxation, right? Because as we go faster, we need to relax as much as we can. If the tensor is, if we are going getting tenser and tenser and tenser, it's going to be very difficult. And if we can build that sort of big, strong motion, then at a faster speed, we can condense that and get the essence of that with a small motion that will allow us to go quickly. Watching that you don't let the fingers, again, that third finger, there can be a tendency for it to want to pull the hand towards it. So let the hand and the arm provide a stable base that if the third finger feels like it's stuck, that we're pulling against it so the hand doesn't move rather than traveling down like this. We would prefer to stay pretty stable. Now, we don't want to feel as if we're stuck in place and again getting tense, but the more excess movement that we have, especially say if we go all the way down here, look at all this work we have to do to get back up here. So you can see that there's a little bit of movement of my hands, but I'm not moving a lot. Of course, various ways to practice for evenness, right? So that we can, say, accent the thumb. Accent 2. Third finger. If you find it hard to get started, sometimes a good way to start an accent, if we do this, maybe it's hard for us not to hear that top note is the beat. We can start, say, with the finger we want to accent. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or the fourth finger. We can also, of course, do triplets, accenting the 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Great way, again, to kind of change the emphasis on the fingers, make sure they're all even and that they can all play loudly and firmly. And again, I would be just, if you can't do this and have it feel pretty comfortable and even, I wouldn't worry so much about trying to do the sequence. I would be practicing on an individual one. And again, maybe some of them feel more difficult than others, some of the configurations. But picking one and just repeating that as you're practicing rather than trying to add in the complication of the changes. Try and get this downward arpeggio movement to start to feel really, really comfortable and loud and even. There's, of course, the classic dotted rhythm, or slow, fast, short, long. So for example, or and when you're doing this, I would be really thinking about trying to make the short really quite short. So it's instead of say a true dotted rhythm, you're thinking more kind of a grace note, trying to get that feel, the sensation of two really fast notes, really fast and even and fluid notes happening. And then we get a moment to reset, relax, concentrate again. Well, maybe that wasn't quite as even. So we're trying to have them be quite fast, but we also want to distinctly not have them coming at the same moment. We want to have ba-bum. There we go. So I was missing the third finger a little bit there a couple times. Paying attention to yourself, not only how does it sound, but how does it feel in the hand. And if you get to one that you feel is just not quite as comfortable as you would like, or quite as fast or distinct, work on that. And again, just really trying to get that sensation in the hands of it feeling comfortable. Now, this isn't necessarily something that happens overnight, right? This could be sort of a longer term project. So again, we could learn the notes of the little fountain, say the sequence, in a actually fairly short amount of time potentially. But this technique is something that you might start working on and realize that, hey, maybe it's a 6-month project, maybe a year project or something that you're not going to see an immediate sort of switch. Oh, suddenly it's perfect. But that over time, hopefully, it can start to get better and more even and more fluid. So anyway, just a few thoughts and ways to practice. As I say, I'll try and do a slow motion Monday video next week of this section. And I'll close by just a reminder, if you're watching this live this week of December 18th, 2018, I am doing a Harp Tuesday 8-year celebration event, a live stream event on YouTube on December 23rd, Sunday, 12:30 on the West Coast, 3:30 on the East Coast, and 9:30 Central European time. And so I hope you'll tune in. I'm going to be releasing some new videos, and yeah, it's going to be a good time. So I will see you there. And meanwhile, I'll see you, might even see you next week. Might try to pre-record a video for next Tuesday. So see you soon. Cheers.